Hey guys, it's Core Ross and welcome to this video about Rainbow Six Siege's future. And this video is sponsored by R6 Tracker. This is an app you can get on Windows that gives you an overlay in-game. I love the operators tab where I can actually see my top operators either by all of my seasons or the current season, but also you can use it to track your games while you're playing. So for instance, it says here that my team has a 49% chance of winning, and the prediction ended up being bang on. We went into overtime and we lost. So that 49% chance of winning ended up being correct because of course they had 1% advantage over us. And if you want to get R6 Tracker yourself, there's a link in the description below. Now amazingly, this is not a video about Rainbow Six Siege dying or anything like that, because right now Ubisoft is making about $100 million per month, because of course they're a public company. We can look up their financials, and I would say 90% or more of that is probably cosmetics and battle passes and stuff like that. You know, battle passes of course is cosmetics too. So they're making a buttload of money. In fact, Siege right now is actually probably making more money than it was at its peak player numbers, because it's just been fine-tuned into this money-making machine with battle passes and paid packs. People are putting in a huge amount of money. And even with the player base shrinking, delays and issues behind the scenes, and cheaters on console and PC being a major factor, we're definitely seeing the player base drop over time. But I wonder when it will become unprofitable for Ubisoft, which right now looks like it could be a while away. And the crazy thing for me is that after 7 years, Rainbow Six Siege still doesn't have competition to go directly against it. Because of course we've got Valorant, we've got Call of Duty and stuff like that, but none of them have the destruction that Siege has, which gives it that uniqueness where we have this defend and attack thing going on. And of course you can jump over to Call of Duty and play like Search and Destroy, but it's just not quite the same as of course Siege. And after 7 years, I'm amazed that a competitor hasn't jumped in with a destruction centered first person shooter that would have a twist on Siege's gameplay. Because right now, I think they could probably take a good chunk of Siege's player base if they were to come out with a more stable game that had a better anti-cheat and things like that. And right now, of course, there just isn't. Anyway, this is not actually the subject of the video, so I want to go on and talk about Mute Protocol. We'll just call it V2 in this video. Ubisoft has actually called it Reloaded, but it's also called Metal and Flesh as well. But we'll just call it V2 at this point in time. And I also want to say a little disclaimer here. So this is going to be obviously theorizing myself. I know nothing, and I have no knowledge of game development and stuff like that. This is purely an entertainment video, of course. I also want to say if a developer is watching this, this is criticism of the game, but not necessarily of developers, because I don't think developers are the problem for Siege. It's the higher ups in the company, the more corporate side of things, and probably the corporate structure of Ubisoft and things like that, and being too focused on making money. I think they can make less money, but make a better game. But of course, in business, that's probably not your primary objective. So not at all aimed at the developers of the game, and I would say anyone on social media who is putting their anger towards the developers, you can go after the CEO and the actual management of Ubisoft if you want things to change. And of course, the best thing to do if you want change in Siege is to stop playing Siege. So let's dive into Mute Protocol as it was back in the day. So it was unfortunately flawed, but it was incredible. It was probably one of the best ever Rainbow Six Siege events that I ever played. But unfortunately, only got to play it for a couple of days before people managed to find exploits that broke it for the entire time that it was out. Now let me run you through the gameplay and how it worked, because you may not have actually played it. It was a long time ago, but this is how it was. So defenders spawned and they could put up bulletproof cameras. And if they went into the cam system, they would see all the bulletproof cameras from their teammates. And what would happen is their body would be uploaded into the network so that you disappeared off the map, which was cool. But you could then reappear from any camera that was set up. And you could, of course, ambush attackers as they were moving in. Now, attackers also had a trick up their sleeve. When they threw their drone out, they were uploaded to the drone, so their body disappeared, and they were now a drone driving around. And they could then pop back out at any moment and become an actual person again, and of course fight. And the way it worked was, if you were out with a camera system, be it attacker or defender, and you got shot, you died. But for the attacker, if you were in drone form and the drone got shot, you actually respawned back upstairs and came back down again. So it was actually one of the first ever events to have respawns in Rainbow Six Siege, although it may have been programmed more as a teleportation or something like that, but certainly you reappeared upstairs as a drone again. But if you were in humanoid form, you would be taken out entirely. And yeah, it was seriously one of the best modes I've ever played, and I loved it. So real sad that it was, used by exploits. And when we heard Mute Protocol was coming back, I was like, ooh, I cannot wait to play that again. And then it came back as gun game. That is weird, because I would of course prefer gun game to be an arcade playlist and have it in the permanent arcades in season 4, but I could see it being its own event. Like it, definitely could, and they've put a little spin on it with the current event. Like it's quite good on round 3. You just get hammers and you go at it with each other. But it's weird that they made it Mute Protocol 2. And the only reason I can see is that it was probably a corporate decision to make more money. They were like, okay, we've got this event, it had cool cosmetics, but it's got major issues, we can't fix these exploits, so we want to, or we don't have the resources, or we're not willing to give enough resources to fix the exploits, so instead we're going to bring this event back, bring back the old cosmetics, add them with new stuff to make this huge expensive amount of packs you can buy to get them all. And then the great thing is, of course, resource wise, they don't have to make a new map, they just have to tweak the one they already have, and voila, they basically have mashed an arcade playlist with an old event to make a sequel to an event that is nothing like the original event at all. So you end up with this weird disconnect where Mute Protocol just isn't what it was, and it's sad as a player, obviously, not being able to play it again, because that original version was so cool if it could have been fixed. And this is where I'm going to put down a bet for the next 2 seasons of Rainbow Six Siege, so make sure you're back here in about 6 months' time to see if I'm right. But my bet is that in Season 3, Doctor's Curse will return with the biggest collection of packs we have ever seen. And of course, a lot of them are also going to be the little profile pictures that I think sell like hotcakes. I think these things sell crazy well, and I think we're going to see a lot of them in the return of Doctor's Curse in Season 3. And my bet for Season 4 is that Snow Brawl will return, which is our snowball fighting event from last year, which was a bit mediocre, but I think it'll come back pretty much unchanged, and that will have yet again another huge collection of packs. Now, I do want to say, as a good thing about the packs out there, is you don't have to buy them. You can go into the store and buy some of the dedicated packs for operators. Of course, you can't get like the seasonal skin and stuff that's in the actual packs. Of course, they want people to be incentivized to buy the RNG packs, which is just basically gambling, which I always say, don't buy the packs in my videos. If you really want something, buy a bundle, that's it. Don't go crazy on buying packs. You'll end up just wasting money. So we'll see how it goes, but this is my theory for how the monetization of Siege will go for the next little bit, and I do think it's quite a seismic change and could mean much more repeating events rather than new events, which would mean less resources needed for developing them, which I would hope could be going into something else. But I do wonder if this is management cutting back the budget and going, right, we have all this content you've made previously, why don't we just reuse it? Like we've got the map from Mute Protocol, why don't we get that reused? We just slap in an arcade playlist game mode in there, and then boom, new event. We chuck in a whole bunch of new cosmetics, make a ton of money. Now, of course, the best outcome here would be that this is actually developers doing this instead of corporate, and what's going on is the resources that they're being given is being funneled into other stuff, like maybe the story elements we're hearing about are going to suddenly pop up as gameplay someday in the future, and that's where the resources is going, and these reused events are actually there to help kind of alleviate that while they build those events. That would be the positive side. If you want to walk away with something positive here, it could be that they're just reorientating the resources and we're getting this reused stuff so that they can pump that resources into story content. Now, we do know the developers have said there will be events in the future that will be story based. Now, I don't know if that means it'll still be PvP or if we might see some co-op stuff, like maybe like a mini Outbreak type event, but military based or something like that. And I'd love that to be the case, but I'm more leaning definitely towards the corporate involvement and potentially lesser resources to work with. And I also want to reiterate a point from earlier in the video, which is I know nothing. This is me theorizing. I very much know I know nothing. And it could be that what I'm talking about here is being caused by something completely different. And it could just be a hiccup that passes by at some point. And now that we're getting towards the tail end of this video, I do want to add in praise here. So first of all, the artists who work on these cosmetic bundles that go up for sale in these packs is just insane. The quality is incredible. So the artists who create these absolutely do an amazing job. And considering how much they pump out per year for Siege, and I know it's obviously a lot of people with different teams and people that rotate in and out and work on different Ubisoft projects as well, but still, like, just all the people involved are creating incredible cosmetics. And I also unfortunately have to praise the corporate side of Ubisoft because they have successfully made Rainbow Six Siege into a money-making machine. They are just printing money, and even if, say, half the player base just decided to quit tomorrow, it would still continue to make a lot of money. So even though it might be dead for a lot of players and a lot of people, they are very much going to be around for probably the 10-year mark and still making a profit at that point. And if they don't make a sequel, I think it'll just continue on. And especially if there's no freaking competition, it'll still take over because it has that niche. And I know myself, a niche can be profitable even if you don't think it's going to be. So they'll keep making money for a long time. But anyway, let's move on to the conclusion of this video, which is an old school theorized video by myself where I put down some bets on what I think is going to happen in Siege's future. And I think it's going to be a lot of reused content that comes back up and a lot more bigger and more expensive pack bundles to pick up. But of course, I could be totally wrong here, so that's where you guys come in and give your theories in the comments below, because maybe you think there's going to be a brand new event next season and it'll be awesome gameplay, and maybe this one was just kind of a filler for now so you'd have more resources for the next new event. Or maybe you actually think Mutant Protocol V2 is perfect and the gameplay has actually been really good for an event and you've been really enjoying it. Anyway guys, thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you next time.
Call a medic, but not for me.